Welcome to the English class. Today we are going to do the poem Keeping Quiet by Pablo Neruda. Pablo Neruda, the great poet who won the Nobel Prize for Literature in the year 1971. In this poem Keeping Quiet, he lays emphasis on 3 points. That is, mutual understanding, introspection, which also means self-analysis, and world peace. Let's start reading the poem now. Now we will count to 12 and we all keep still. Now means this moment. This is the moment that we will start our introspection. Children, you can see that the poet has made use of the number 12. Why? Because there are 12 digits in the clock and hence 12, it speaks about time. So the poet says this is the time for introspection and we all keep still. Still means motionless, quiet. For once on the face of this earth, let's not speak in any language. So the poet is saying that for once, let's all be quiet on the face of this earth. It refers to the various countries. It refers to the globe. So he says that all around the globe, let's all be quiet. Let's all be still. Let's not speak in any language. Why? Because language breeds barriers. It is because of the language that there are so many differences today. Let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. So the poet is urging his readers that let us stop for a while and not be engaged in any kind of physical activity. When he is using the word arms, here arms, it speaks about, it has 2 meanings. Arms, it refers to your physical activity, the physical activity, and arms, it also talks about weapons. So when the poet is using arms, he is making use of a poetic device which is known as synecdoche. That is synecdoche. Synecdoche, which means when a part is given to describe a whole or a whole is given to describe a part. So when he is using arms, he is referring to not being engaged in any kind of physical activity. Then he says, it would be an exotic moment. That moment when we are not using weapons, when we are not engaged in any kind of physical activity, that will be the most beautiful moment. Why? Without rush, without engines. Without rush, without engines, that we will not be engaged in the hubbub of life. We will not be moving in the mad race of materialism. We would all be together in a sudden strangeness. So obviously, we'll all be quiet and we'll all be together. And this thing would be very strange. Why? Because you see that we all will be strangers. But there will be one thing which will be binding us all. And what will be that one thing? That one thing will be the power of silence. The power of introspection. We'll all be introspecting on our follies. Then he says, fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales, and man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. What will happen? The fishermen, they will not go to the sea and they will not harm the whales. So which means that the nature will be saved. And you can also see that the poet says, and man gathering salt would look at his hurt hand. When we say man gathering salt, it refers to that man is engaged in his materialistic life. gathering salt, which means man is engaged in materialistic gains. Now, if I ask you, suppose if you have salt in your hand, you put salt in your hand, what will happen? After some time, the skin of your hand, it will go bad, right? Similarly, what is happening? We are running a mad race of materialism, and ultimately, what are we doing? We are harming our own selves. Then he says, those who prepare green wars, war with gas, war with fire. He's talking about the people, that there are people who are waging wars, who are waging green wars. When the poet talks about green wars, he is talking about the war against nature. Then he says, war with gas, war with fire. So he is also referring to the nuclear and chemical wars. So, if you get this question, now who are the people who are waging war? Who are the people who are making wars? It's not you or me. The powerful people, the scientists, these are the people, the politicians, the scientists, the influential people, they are the people who make wars. So he says, victory with no survivors. Now what is the use of such a victory if no survivors are left? So this can come in your exam, that what are the type of war that the poet is talking about? The poet is talking about two types of war, that is war against nature and nuclear or chemical war. And these wars are all useless, because what will be the use of such a war if there are no survivors left? Now, when the poet is using this word, victory with no survivors, he has used another poetic device which is known as hyperbole. Hyperbole, which means when you are exaggerating the things. Now, the poet says, and put on clean clothes and walk around with their brothers in the shade doing nothing. So, what is the poet saying? When the poet is saying putting on clean clothes, he is saying that what we should be doing is we should be cleaning our mind, our conscience, and walk about with our brothers in the shade doing nothing. Here shade refers to the peaceful environment. So the poet is urging his readers that let's not be engaged in the wars. Let us clean our mind, let us clean our conscience, and let's walk around with our brothers, and that would be and hence move on to a peaceful environment. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Now the poet here is laying stress on this, that he is not advocating total inactivity. He does not want his readers to just sit like that. No, he says life is what it is about. So what is life? Life is an ongoing process. Life is what it is about. I want no truck with death. He does not want life it to be associated with death. Why? Because children, death here, life is an ongoing process, and wherever there is death, death refers to stagnation. So the poet is not at all advocating death. He is not advocating physical inactivity. So the poet is saying that one should keep on moving because life is an ongoing process, and he does not promote physical inactivity. If we were not so single-minded about keeping our lives moving, what are we single-minded? Single-minded refers to that we are determined. What are we determined about? We are determined about keeping on moving ahead in our life, keeping on just going ahead, running a mad race of materialism, and for once would do nothing. Then one day, because we are running a mad race of materialism, and one day we will realize, oh my God, we have lost so much of time and we have not done anything. Then he says, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. The poet says that, look, what are we doing? We are running a mad race of materialism, and ultimately we are harming our own selves. And then one day we are going to realize that what have we done? We have lost time and we did not get time to think on ourselves, and then that would be too late. Perhaps the earth can teach us, as when everything seems dead, the later proves to be alive. So the poet tells his readers that we can learn the lesson from the earth. The earth which appears to be dead. So here the poet has made use of symbolism, that the earth which appears to be dead, but there are so many tsunamis, so many volcanoes which are inside the womb of the earth. A volcano which may appear to be dormant, one day it might erupt. Alright, so it shows that there is a lot of activity. Now, I'll give you a small example. Suppose if you have a small seed, the seed which appears to be non-living. Now, if you sow that seed in and under proper conditions, under light, under that soil and all that, one day the seed will germinate into a plant. So there was life inside that seed. So that is why he says that the earth which appears to be dormant, the earth which appears to be dead, but there are so many things buried inside the earth and it shows that it is alive. Similarly, if we see a person who is not engaged in any kind of physical activity, who appears to be dead, and people might feel that he is just not doing anything, but no, he is sitting and he is introspecting on his follies so that he can become a better individual. And in the end, the poet says, now I will count up to 12 and you keep quiet and I will go. So here the poet is leaving his readers on a very positive note, and he is again emphasizing that now you will all count up, I will count up to 12, and you all start with the introspection so that you all can turn into better individuals. Thank you.